You wouldn't believe how I got back at her. No, seriously, you really wouldn't. When people hear the full story, they either stare at me in stunned silence or whisper some version of, "She never saw that coming, did she?" And she didn't. Not even close. It all started with something so small, it could have slipped by unnoticed, a receipt. Just a crumpled up, half-folded piece of thermal paper wedged between the seat and the console of my wife's car. I borrowed it that morning to take mine in for an oil change, wasn't snooping, wasn't expecting anything. Just happened to grab a bottle of water, and there it was. Now, here's the thing. I'm not the jealous type. Never have been. I've always believed that trust is the foundation of any strong relationship. But sometimes, a gut feeling speaks louder than logic. The receipt was from a fancy wine bar across town. A place Emma and I never went to, not because we couldn't afford it, but because, according to her, it's always filled with pretentious jerks. Date: last Thursday. Time: 8:47 p.m. She'd told me she was doing an overnight shift at the hospital that night. That's when my stomach flipped. I didn't say anything. Not then. I slid the receipt into my wallet like it was just another business card and drove that car like nothing had changed, though deep down, I knew something had. Emma, my wife of 7 years, had always been the picture of composure. Organized. Clean. Charming when she needed to be. She was a nurse, compassionate, capable, and, apparently, very good at compartmentalizing. That night, she came home at 9 a.m., hair tied back, scrubs wrinkled, the smell of hand sanitizer on her skin. She kissed me on the cheek like always. Smiled. Asked about my day. I smiled back, said, "Same old," and told her I was thinking of planning a weekend away for us. She lit up. "That sounds amazing," she said. "Just the two of us." That smile, it used to mean everything to me. Now it felt like a mask. The next few days, I paid attention. Really paid attention. Her phone never left her side. She started dressing up more, hospital dress code getting stricter, she said. She began working late shifts more often, claiming short staff. I nodded, played dumb, asked if she needed me to pack her lunch. She declined, said she'd grab something from the cafeteria. I started keeping a journal. Dates, times, little oddities. It felt like I was becoming someone else, an investigator, a strategist. The kind of man who didn't just react, but planned. That's when I discovered Dr. Levi, a name I'd heard in passing, once or twice. He was a new attending physician, fresh from out of state, apparently charming, smart, married, I later learned. Emma mentioned him casually once over dinner. "Dr. Levi's hilarious," she said, cutting into her salmon. "He's got the worst dad jokes." I remember laughing along, but my mind had already started racing. It wasn't just intuition anymore. There were patterns. Her car location showed up near the hospital, sure, but always in the back, near the employee lot that faced the alleyway. No cameras there. One night, when she claimed she was working late, I drove by. The hospital lights were dim. Her car wasn't there. I waited an hour. Still nothing. I didn't call her. I didn't text. I just went home and added another entry to my journal. April 17th, 11:43 p.m. No car at hospital. You see, it wasn't the betrayal that stung the most. It was the performance. The way she still kissed me goodbye, still laughed at my jokes, still curled into my side at night. That kind of deception takes talent. And time, which meant this wasn't new. It had roots. And roots, as we all know, can be pulled. That's when I started planning the revenge. I didn't want drama. I didn't want to scream or throw plates or make a scene. I wanted precision. Clean cuts. Like surgery. Because when a doctor plays you like a fool and your wife smiles while it happens, you don't just walk away. You operate. They say hindsight is 20/20ths. But I think that's a generous lie we tell ourselves to feel better about missing what was always right in front of us. Looking back, the signs weren't subtle. They were neon, flashing, screaming. But I was too busy being the good husband to see them for what they were. At first, it was little things. Emma started showering right after coming home from work. Not unusual for a nurse, sure, but it became obsessive. She used to come home, kiss me, talk about her day, maybe pour a glass of wine. Now she'd walk through the door, barely mutter, "Hi," and disappear into the bathroom. Every time. No exception. Then came the new underwear. Expensive. Delicate. Lingerie that didn't scream comfort, it screamed someone else is seeing this. I noticed the tags in the laundry and asked her about it once. She laughed it off. "It's for me," she said. "I'm rediscovering my femininity." And her phone, it might as well have been a hand grenade. Locked, face down, always on silent. She used to toss it around the house like it didn't matter. Now it never left her side. Once, I reached for it by mistake, thinking it was mine. She snatched it out of my hand so fast you'd think I was holding state secrets. Still, I told myself not to overreact. Maybe she was just stressed. Maybe this was what getting older looked like, a woman reclaiming her sense of self. But the truth was growing like a tumor, and I was done pretending not to feel it. One evening, she got a call while we were watching TV. Her screen lit up. I caught a glimpse. Just a first name, Ethan. Not someone I recognized. She glanced at me, smiled too quickly, and declined the call. Spam, she said. That night, I checked our phone bill. Ethan's number appeared 6 times in the past week. Always around midnight. Always on the nights she worked late. It was getting harder to breathe. So I started keeping records. I wasn't being paranoid. I was collecting data. Photos of receipts. Screenshots of credit card charges. Notes on what she wore, what time she left, what time she came back. I became methodical. Detached. Cold. And still, she kissed me like nothing had changed. Still told me she loved me every morning. I began to wonder, was I the only one acting? Her hospital shifts became more erratic. She said she was floated to other departments. Claimed the admin was a mess, and she was covering for others. I called her unit once, under a different name, asking for her. They said she wasn't on shift that night. I hung up before they could ask who I was. Now I wasn't just hurt. I was furious. And focused. The tipping point came on a Sunday morning. She left early, said she was grabbing brunch with the girls. I followed. She didn't see me. I stayed 3 cars behind the whole way. She didn't go to brunch. She drove across town to a small office park and parked behind a red Tesla, the same one I'd seen in a hospital lot before, with a Dr. Levi vanity plate. She stepped out in jeans and heels, not a brunch outfit. He was already waiting by the door. He kissed her. Not on the cheek. Not a friend's greeting. A full kiss. Hands on hips, lingering, familiar. She laughed. They went inside together. I sat there for a full hour, unmoving. Hands clenched on the steering wheel. The last shred of doubt fell away. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. I wasn't reading into things. I was married to a liar. I drove home in silence. Didn't cry. Didn't yell. I was beyond that. I was planning. Not just an exit, a response. A precise, deliberate correction to years of deception. Emma got home around 3 p.m., smiling. Hair slightly messy. The girls say hi, she said, hanging her purse on the hook. I kissed her on the forehead. How was brunch? Lovely, she said, without blinking. Maggie brought her new boyfriend. He's a chef. Lies roll off her tongue like second nature. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay beside her, eyes open, listening to her breathe peaceful, like she hadn't just committed emotional arson hours earlier. I stared at the ceiling, running numbers in my head. How much of our savings was mine? What assets could I protect? How quickly could I isolate my accounts? I knew I'd need help, and I knew exactly who to call. First thing the next morning, I met with a friend of mine, Carl, a financial planner who owed me a few favors. We sat in a quiet booth at a diner, and I laid it out. Not all the details, not yet, just enough. I need to prepare for a worst-case scenario, I said. Carl raised an eyebrow but didn't press. All right, he said, pulling out a notepad. Let's build a firewall. By the time I left that meeting, I had new accounts opened, passwords changed, and a checklist of legal protections. Step by step, I was removing her access to my future. I went home, fixed dinner, and smiled through another evening of fake affection. She chatted about some new show she wanted to watch. I nodded along, made her tea, asked about her day. Inside, I was already gone, and she had no idea. I wasn't preparing to leave her anymore. I was preparing for war. There's a certain numbness that takes over once you accept the truth. No more wondering, no more bargaining with your gut, just cold, brutal clarity. Emma had chosen her path. My job now was to make sure I walked mine with open eyes and steady hands. I needed facts. Proof. Evidence that wouldn't just destroy her lies, but protect me when the fallout came. That's when I hired Vincent. Vincent wasn't cheap, but he was worth every penny. Ex-cop. Now a private investigator with a reputation for being discreet, thorough, and, as one review put it, the guy who can find your wife's ghost if she's cheating with a man invisible to Google. We met in a parking lot behind a bookstore. Not exactly James Bond, but low profile enough. I gave him everything I had. Names, times, receipts, photos, even a map of her common excuses. He nodded silently like he'd seen it all before. And probably had. How long you want surveillance? He asked, scribbling notes. Give me a week, I said. She's getting comfortable. I want her at her cockiest. He smirked. They always do. That same night, Emma came home glowing, giggling over something on her phone. She showed me a meme about cats. I fake laughed, asked if she wanted pizza. She said yes, kissed me on the cheek. Then she went to shower. I stood in the kitchen, watching her purse sitting on the counter. Her phone was inside. Locked, of course. But I didn't need it anymore. I had Vincent now. Over the next few days, things escalated, not between me and Emma, but between her and Dr. Levi. I knew because Vincent sent me updates. Photos. Timestamped logs. Footage. Every day at 10 a.m., I got a silent folder in my inbox. I opened each one like a man dissecting a cancer diagnosis. Monday, lunch in his car, parked behind a medical building. Tuesday, a kiss in the elevator, shielded by her clipboard. Wednesday, they left work separately, only to meet again 30 minutes later at a hotel 5 miles away. I stared at that photo for 10 minutes. Her hand on his chest. His hand on her hip. Both of them laughing like teenagers on prom night. That hotel, I'd driven past it 100 times. She once told me it was creepy. Guess she changed her mind. Vincent confirmed what I already feared. This wasn't a fling. It wasn't just a moment of weakness. It was a routine. A hidden life with its own schedule, its own smiles, its own language. She was living 2 lives, and I was the silent extra in both. Thursday, I got a package. Inside was a USB drive, a printed report, and a sealed envelope. Vincent didn't just observe, he confirmed. Background on Levi, married, no kids, had already been under quiet investigation by his own hospital once due to a complaint by another nurse, dropped due to insufficient evidence. That nurse no longer worked there. There were screenshots of text messages. Vincent had cloned Emma's phone remotely through a spoofed access point. I didn't even know that was possible. The messages made me sick. Emma, you wore that tie again. You know what it does to me. Levi, anything to get you out of those scrubs. Emma, lunch tomorrow? You owe me after skipping dessert last night, smiling face with horns. I stopped reading. The sealed envelope? Divorce preparation documents. Vincent worked with a lawyer named Helena, smart, relentless, and discreet. If I wanted to proceed, all I had to do was sign the intake form and set a consultation. I held the pen in my hand for 5 minutes, just staring. Then I signed it. The next step was financial protection. I'd already started with Carl, but now I knew I had to dig deeper. I reviewed our joint accounts, traced every shared credit card. And there it was, recurring charges at boutique shops, expensive skincare stores, and even a flower delivery service that I never received. She was sending him flowers. I laughed. A real, bitter laugh. Emma came home that evening and asked what was funny. I waved it off. Just something I read, I said. Some guy thought his wife was cheating. Turned out she was just sneaking off to buy puppies. She laughed too. Men are so paranoid. I nearly choked. That night, I lay awake while she slept peacefully. Her back turned to me. My mind was running through every angle, not just the exit, but the exposure. Because I didn't just want to be free. I wanted her to know I knew. I wanted him to pay. And I wanted to make sure that when it all came crashing down, neither of them would have a shadow left to hide in. The diagnosis was clear now. The symptoms undeniable. She had poisoned our life together, drip by drip, smile by smile. And now? Now it was time for treatment. But I wasn't prescribing forgiveness. There's something strange that happens when betrayal finally hardens into resolve. You stop asking why and start planning how. I wasn't hurt anymore. I was calculating. My mornings began earlier now. Not because I couldn't sleep, that had stopped weeks ago, but because I had things to do. I needed to turn chaos into control. Every minute of every day had a purpose. Protect, prepare, position. Step 1. Secure my assets. Emma and I had 2 joint checking accounts, 1 savings, and a line of credit we barely used, but it was in both our names. I drained the joint savings into my new personal account. Quietly. No alerts. No movement that would show up in her phone notifications. The checking account I left mostly untouched, just enough to cover regular bills so she wouldn't suspect anything. Next, I started moving anything in my name into a living trust, something Carl helped me set up. The car, my half of the house, my business revenue, all tucked safely away behind layers of legality Emma didn't even know existed. She still kissed me every morning. Still smiled like we were 25 again. Every kiss burned. Step 2, information. I needed to know what was hers, what was ours, and what I could take without a fight. That's where Helena came in, the divorce attorney Vincent had recommended. She wasn't your standard suit anti-type. She wore jeans, boots, and carried herself like someone who knew exactly how to rip out a spine with a contract. We met in her office downtown. She listened in silence as I laid out the timeline. I didn't cry. I didn't flinch. Just facts. Cold, sharp facts. The receipts. The surveillance. The texts. She tapped her pen thoughtfully. You're doing everything right, she said finally. We'll file on grounds of infidelity. That gives us leverage. I nodded. I don't want drama. I want results. Helena smirked. Drama's what she'll bring. We just bring paperwork. She explained the legal strategy. We would initiate proceedings quietly, freeze shared assets, file for an equitable division, and push for an amicable settlement at first. But if Emma pushed back, we'd go nuclear. Adultery, misuse of funds, emotional cruelty, all documented. Any chance she'll try to flip the narrative? I asked. Helena's smile darkened. She might. That's why we keep everything clean. You don't yell. You don't confront. You don't so much as raise your voice. When this lands, it lands hard. But it has to look like the universe did it, not you. Understood, I said. Before I left, she handed me a thick folder. Documentation checklist, she said. Every password. Every purchase. Every shared asset. And any messages that show she's lying. I went home that night with the folder under my arm like a sword in a sheath. Emma was already home, humming to herself in the kitchen. There was a roast in the oven. Red wine on the table. She kissed me hello, said, I missed you today. I nearly laughed. Instead, I kissed her back and said, let's have dinner outside. She was thrilled. While we ate, she asked if I'd be open to starting that baby conversation again. I know we paused it, she said gently. But maybe. This fall? That was the moment I realized something new. She didn't just want to cheat. She wanted to trap me. Seal the betrayal with a child. Make it permanent. A twisted way of doubling down, securing her safety net while still dancing around with another man. I swallowed a bite of potato. Yeah, I said. Let's talk about it soon. The next morning, I transferred a copy of the full surveillance report to Helena. She filed the preliminary petition. I wasn't just preparing now, I had launched. But I still needed one more layer. Emma was smart. Manipulative. If she sensed the shift too soon, she'd go on the offensive. So I had to create noise, something to distract her while I built the trap. I faked a financial setback. Told her my business hit a rough quarter, that I'd need to scale back some of our spending. That I might pull from our joint funds if things didn't bounce back. She nodded sympathetically. We'll figure it out. She didn't even ask if I was okay. Just smiled and kissed my cheek and walked upstairs to text him. That night, she stayed late at work. Vincent confirmed otherwise, a late check-in at the same hotel. I watched her walk into the house at 11:17 p.m. through the Ring camera. She didn't even try to sneak. It was all becoming routine to her. Predictable. But what she didn't know was that every step she took was now a step deeper into a trap she'd never escaped from cleanly. This wasn't just revenge anymore. This was reclamation. Of my dignity. Of my future. Of every ounce of peace she'd stolen. The best part? She still thought she was winning. The strange thing about living a double life, or pretending to, is that eventually, the masks start to slip. Emma didn't notice at first. I was still the same doting husband, still making coffee in the morning, still offering to rub her feet after her long shifts. But there were cracks. Little ones. A different tone in my voice. The way I looked at her, not angry, not cold, just distant. Observing. And someone else noticed. Her name was Danny, a younger nurse at Emma's hospital. We'd met once at a staff Christmas party. She'd brought cookies and awkwardly complimented my tie. But a few days after I began executing my plan, I ran into her at a grocery store. She approached me nervously. Hey, Mr. Thompson, right? I smiled. Just call me Jack. She hesitated, glanced around, and then asked, Are you okay? That's when I knew something had leaked. I'm fine, I said, keeping my voice even. Why do you ask? Danny shifted uncomfortably. I probably shouldn't say anything, but I just feel bad. Emma's really sweet, but everyone's been talking lately. Talking about what? She bit her lip, then leaned in. She's been really close with Dr. Levi. Like, really close. It's not my business, but the way she looks at him, and how often she stays late when he's on call. People notice. I let the silence stretch. Thank you for telling me, I said finally. I won't say anything. You didn't do anything wrong. Her eyes softened with relief. You deserve better, she said, almost whispering. That moment didn't hurt. It clarified. Emma's betrayal wasn't just behind my back anymore. It was a joke in break rooms. A whisper in hallways. I wasn't just the victim. I was the punchline. That night, I watched her sleep. Her face was calm, at peace. And I realized she truly believed she had everything under control, that I would never catch on, never act, never dare to fight back. I leaned over and whispered, I know everything. She stirred slightly. Didn't wake up. I smiled. The next morning, I sent a small bouquet of lilies to her hospital, addressed not to her, but to Levi's wife. No note. Just a quiet tap on the glass. By lunch, Helena messaged me. We've confirmed Mrs. Levi has reached out. She wants to meet. That was faster than expected. We met in a quiet cafe. Her name was Claire. Soft-spoken, polite, with the kind of steady composure that only barely hides deep cracks. She thanked me for contacting her. I had a feeling, she said, but no proof. No courage, I guess. You weren't alone, I said. We compared notes, stories, dates. It was surreal, building a timeline of betrayal from two separate lives. She cried once, quietly. I didn't. I'd already used up my tears. When we parted, I handed her a copy of Vincent's full report. Do with it what you need, I said. No pressure. She gripped it tightly. Thank you. You're braver than I am. Not brave, I said. Just done. Meanwhile, Emma had started acting nicer. She baked. She offered to do the dishes. Left me little notes on the bathroom mirror. You're my rock. Can't wait for our next adventure. She even planned a weekend getaway for just us, saying we needed time to reconnect. It was guilt, or suspicion, or maybe she sensed a shift. But it didn't matter. Because I knew her getaway would coincide with another hotel meetup. Vincent was tracking her calendar now. And I had something better in mind. Her birthday was 2 weeks away, and I was going to give her a celebration no one would forget. I booked a small hall. Elegant. Intimate. A place where we'd once attended a friend's anniversary dinner. I hired a caterer, a decorator, and, most importantly, a discreet videographer. Every friend, every relative, even a few coworkers would be invited. The theme? To the woman who means the world. I wrote a speech. Practiced the tone. Warm. Loving. Grateful. Exactly what they expected from a husband madly in love. She'd never see it coming. And I was done surviving. I was awakening. By now, every interaction with Emma felt like I was watching a performance I'd already read the script for. She laughed too loudly at my jokes. Touched my shoulder just a beat too long. Called me babe with a bright, wide-eyed look she hadn't used in months. It was desperate. It was rehearsed. And I played along because the final act was coming. But before the curtain rose, I needed to cut deeper. I wasn't satisfied with just exposing her. I wanted to dismantle the fantasy she'd built with Levi, brick by brick. So, I went after him. Vincent already had a full profile, where Levi lived, his daily schedule, his hospital records. But I wanted more. I wanted to know what made him tick, and where the cracks were. It didn't take long. Turns out, Dr. Ethan Levi wasn't quite the golden boy he portrayed. Married 12 years. Multiple complaints from hospital staff over the years, always about inappropriate remarks, blurred boundaries. All quietly swept under the rug. A few nurses had even left the hospital shortly after filing HR incidents. Vincent tracked down one of them, a woman named Teresa who now worked at a clinic across town. I met her under the pretense of looking into hospital culture for a small business podcast I claimed to be launching. It was a stretch, but she agreed. Over coffee, I asked casually about her time at St. Edmund's Hospital. She hesitated, then said, "Look, it's not a place I want to revisit, but..." Levi made it uncomfortable. A lot of us. But the administration always protected him. He's charming and his numbers are great. What kind of uncomfortable? She leaned forward, lowered her voice. He'd flirt, push boundaries, touch the small of your back, comment on your lipstick. And if you said anything, he'd act like it was a joke. Harmless. You end up feeling like you're the problem. I nodded, keeping my face neutral. Teresa didn't know it, but she just handed me the final weapon I needed. I compiled everything. The HR complaints. The timeline with Emma. The messages. The hotel visits. The workplace dynamics. It was all going into a special envelope, The one I would send anonymously to the hospital board and to Levi's private practice review committee. I wasn't just going to expose the affair. I was going to crack open the man behind the affair. Meanwhile, Claire, Levi's wife, had become an unexpected ally. We weren't friends, exactly. But we shared a strange kind of bond now, survivors of the same car crash, crawling from the wreckage on opposite sides. She told me she'd confronted him. He denied it, she said. Called me paranoid. Said I was jealous of his female colleagues. I asked how she responded. She smiled thinly. I showed him your report. He didn't say a word after that. Just walked out. I nodded. What now? I'm filing, she said. It's over. We didn't toast. We didn't celebrate. But there was something satisfying in that silence between us, the knowledge that we weren't crazy, that we trusted our guts. And now we were acting. Emma, meanwhile, was busy planning her party. She was giddy. I can't believe you're doing this, she said one night, crawling into bed next to me. No one's ever thrown me a surprise before. I kissed her forehead. You deserve it. She beamed. That weekend, I slipped away for a few hours, claiming I had a client meeting. In truth, I was reviewing the venue layout with the videographer. We tested the projector, made sure the slideshow worked, discussed lighting and crowd angles. Everything was perfect. The slideshow itself was simple. It started like a romantic montage. Baby pictures of Emma. Our wedding day. Laughter. Vacations. Just enough to lull the room into a false sense of sentiment. Then, the shift. Photos of her and Levi. Timestamped. Hugging in parking lots. Kissing at elevators. The hotel. The messages. The truth. Over the final slide, I added this. This isn't the woman I married, but it's the one she chose to become. I saved it. Encrypted it. Backed it up in 3 places. Let her smile now. Let her toast and twirl and take selfies in her new dress. Because when the lights dimmed at that party, everything would change. They say revenge is best served cold. I say, serve it dressed in linen, with candlelight, and just enough Chardonnay to lower their guard. Emma's birthday arrived like any other. Sunshine, texts from friends, the giddy glow of someone who believes they're adored. She twirled in front of the mirror that morning in a new dress I hadn't bought. I can't wait to see what you planned, she said. You'll love it, I promised, and meant it. The venue was flawless. String lights across the ceiling. White tablecloths. Soft music. Guests began arriving at 6:30 sharp. Her parents, my sister, a few of her coworkers, the oblivious ones, mutual friends. Everyone hugged. Everyone smiled. Emma entered at 7:10, escorted by me, glowing like a bride. Applause. Surprise. Laughter. Champagne corks. She was overwhelmed. Hugged everyone. Cried a little. Kissed me like I was the man of her dreams. And I played the part to perfection. Dinner was served. Toasts were made. Her mother stood and gushed about how proud we are of Emma, how she's always been the heart of every room. I raised my glass along with everyone else. Inside, I was counting beats. At 8:37 p.m., the videographer dimmed the lights. I took the mic. Thank you all for coming, I began. Tonight is about love, about truth, and about honoring the people we think we know, the ones we let into our lives, our homes, our hearts. Emma beamed at me, dabbing a napkin under her eye. Emma, I said, turning toward her. You've always been a story to me, the kind I wanted to tell our kids someday. But tonight, I want to tell you one instead. I gestured to the screen. The slideshow began. At first, gasps of joy. Childhood photos. Graduation. Our first trip to California. Wedding clips. She looked at me, touched. Then, the change. A photo of her and Levi, hugging, timestamped. The room fell silent. Another, a kiss near the hospital's side entrance. Someone in the back coughed. Then came the hotel footage. Her laughing. Him adjusting his tie. Messages. You wore that tie again. You owe me dessert, smiling face with horns. Gasps turned into murmurs. Her mother's face collapsed into her hands. My sister's jaw clenched. The crowd, once buzzing with celebration, sat in frozen disbelief. Emma didn't move. Not a word. She stared at the screen like it might suddenly lie. Then, the final slide. This isn't the woman I married, but it's the one she chose to become. I turned off the mic. Silence. Then, I walked off the stage and out the door. No rage. No yelling. Just finality. The fallout was instant. Some friends followed me outside, stunned. Others stayed behind, unsure what to believe. Emma didn't chase me. She didn't say a word. She just sat. I went home, packed my final bag, and left the key on the counter. Vincent had already helped me secure a rental nearby, fully furnished, quiet. My new space. My new start. The next morning, the text started. From her, Jack, please. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. Then, can we talk? And later, I was going to stop. I swear. I love you. I blocked the number. She emailed. Called from her work phone. Even wrote me a letter, 3 pages, tear-stained, apologetic, full of justifications. I didn't respond. Because her moment had passed. I wasn't looking for closure. I had created it. It's strange, the silence after an explosion. You expect chaos. Shouting. Fires to put out. But more often, it's just stillness, a quiet where the world takes a breath and resets. That's what the days after the party felt like. I didn't go back for anything. Didn't check her social media. Didn't ask mutual friends for updates. I didn't need to. The silence told me everything. Emma moved out of the house within a week. Left the keys with Helena's office. No note. No confrontation. Just absence. Good. Let her sit with it. I went back to work full-time. Threw myself into my business, not as a distraction, but as a choice. I had clients to serve, deals to close, a life to rebuild. The more I focused on progress, the smaller she became in my rear view. One morning, Carl pulled me aside. Hey, he said, just so you know, a few people at the hospital reached out. Quietly. You're kind of a legend now. I blinked. A legend. Word got around. About the party. The slideshow. Levi's suspension. People think you handled it with class and precision. They're impressed. That caught me off guard. I hadn't done it for applause. But knowing it helped others see the truth? That meant something. Even Claire, Levi's ex-wife, emailed me. He lost his job. Thank you. I'm starting over, too. We exchanged a few more messages. Nothing romantic. Just 2 people standing on new shores, waving across the waves. Helena finalized the divorce papers by month's end. Clean. Fast. Emma didn't fight. Didn't try to claw anything back. Maybe she was too ashamed. Or maybe she thought silence would make her look like the victim. Either way, I was free. Legally. Mentally. Spiritually. I celebrated quietly. Went for a hike. Stood at the edge of a cliff and let the wind hit me. No music, no speeches, just air, and the sense that I'd finally come out the other side. For the first time in months, I slept through the night. And the dreams? They were peaceful. I started therapy. Not because I was broken, but because I wanted to stay unbroken. My therapist, a calm, older man named Rick, didn't ask me to rehash the whole story. He just asked where I wanted to go next. Forward, I said. He nodded. Then that's where we'll go. We talked about trust and fear and how pain doesn't always need a voice. Sometimes it just needs space. I like that. It helped. Over time, I rebuilt routines. I started running again. Cooking. Reading books I'd left half-finished. I stopped drinking to forget. Now I'd have a glass of wine simply because I liked the taste. There was no hole to fill. Just life to live. One day, I bumped into Danny, the nurse who'd warned me. She smiled. You look lighter. I feel lighter. Emma left the hospital, by the way, she said. Transferred. No one really talks to her anymore. I just nodded. Later that week, I found a package at my door. No name. Inside, the watch I'd once bought for Emma, the one she wore constantly, even after things fell apart. Alongside it, a note. I don't deserve to keep this. I'm sorry for everything. I hope you find happiness. No signature. I placed the watch in a drawer and didn't open it again. Because closure isn't something they give you. It's something you take. I thought it was over. Honestly, after the party, the silence, the paperwork, and all the healing, I believed the ghost of Emma was finally gone. That I had buried her, not physically, of course, but in memory, in emotion, in relevance. But ghosts don't knock. They slip in through cracks. It started with a phone call I didn't expect, not from Emma, but from her sister, Megan. We'd never been particularly close, but she'd always been civil, polite, cautious, like someone watching a building crack but unsure when it would fall. Jack, she said, her voice tight, I know we haven't talked since everything, but I need to tell you something. It's about Emma. I almost hung up, but something in her tone stopped me. It wasn't pity. It wasn't drama. It was fear. She's in trouble, Megan said. What kind of trouble? She lost her job, obviously, and she's spiraling. Drinking. She called me at 2 a.m. last night. crying about how he ruined everything and Jack turned everyone against me. She's obsessed. Levi. No. You. I exhaled. She's not eating. She barely sleeps. She keeps replaying that video from the party, like if she rewatches it enough times, it'll change. I said nothing. Megan continued. I'm not asking you to talk to her. I know that's not your responsibility. But she needs help. Real help. I nodded slowly. What do you want from me? Just be aware. She's not stable. And I think she might show up. I froze. Show up where? At your place. Your work. Somewhere. She's not thinking clearly. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was afraid of her. Because I hated that after everything, the truth, the exposure, the clean break, her presence still threatened my peace. The next day, it happened. I stepped out of my apartment, ready to meet a client, and there she was, standing by the sidewalk, arms wrapped around herself like she was holding her own ribs together. Emma. Pale. Thin. Unrecognizable. For a second, we just stared at each other. Then she said, You destroyed me. I didn't answer. She took a step forward. You didn't have to do it like that. The party, the video, you humiliated me. No, I said, my voice calm. You humiliated yourself. I just turned on the lights. Her lips trembled. I loved you. I nodded. And I loved the version of you that never existed. She flinched. Good. I was broken, she whispered. Levi was a mistake. 100 mistakes. But I thought, maybe if I made you feel small, I wouldn't feel so worthless. I folded my arms. And how did that work out? Her eyes welled with tears. You were everything, she said. I was just too selfish to see it. You're not here for an apology, I said. You're here for permission to feel better. I can't give you that. She broke. Right there, on the sidewalk, in front of a passing jogger and 2 early dog walkers. Sobs racked her body. She dropped to the curb, shaking. And still, I didn't move. Because forgiveness isn't a handout. It's a path. And she hadn't walked it. Eventually, I said, get help. Not from me. From someone who's paid to listen. She looked up, pleading. Can we just talk? 1 coffee. 1 hour. I shook my head. I buried you, I said. And I'm not digging you up. I turned, got in my car, and drove away. No rearview glances. No second thoughts. And for the first time, I knew. She was finally gone. There's a moment after every storm where the sky clears, not just visually, but spiritually. Like the air itself exhales. That's what my life felt like now. Peace didn't come in one thunderous moment. It crept in slowly, like sunlight through half-closed blinds. First in the mornings I no longer dreaded. Then in conversations where her name didn't need to come up. Eventually, in the quiet joy of being alone without feeling lonely. I rebuilt. Not to prove anything. But because building is what living people do. I took on fewer clients, focusing on quality, not hustle. I traveled, not to escape, but to discover. I reconnected with friends who had quietly stepped back during the drama. Some returned. Some didn't. And that was okay. One of them, Derek, said something that stuck with me. You didn't just walk through fire, man. You carried buckets out of it. That's how it felt. Therapy continued. I no longer talked about Emma. Now it was about goals, legacy, who I wanted to be next. I picked up photography, something I'd always told myself I didn't have time for. Turns out, I had all the time I needed. One afternoon, I was out in the mountains, camera in hand, chasing a golden hour that seemed to follow me, when I met someone. Her name was Lauren. She was walking her dog, looking for the same light. We didn't flirt. Didn't rush. Just talked about light, shadows, the best local hikes. She had kind eyes. And when she smiled, she didn't try to impress, she just seemed happy to exist. We exchanged numbers. No pressure. No expectation. Just curiosity. Over the weeks that followed, we met again. Coffee. Then a trail walk. Then a bookshop. We talked about favorite films, past mistakes, and that strange joy of starting again without needing to fix the past. I didn't tell her everything at first. Not because I was hiding, but because she didn't demand it. And when I did tell her, she didn't flinch. She just listened. Sounds like you went through hell, she said softly. Yeah, I replied. But I climbed out. Lauren didn't become my entire world. She joined it. That's how I knew it was real. Some nights, I sit by my window, glass of wine in hand, music low, and I think about who I was before all this. Naive? Maybe. Too trusting? Sure. But broken? No. Because I learned something in the ruins. Loving someone doesn't mean surrendering yourself, and losing them doesn't mean you lose you. Sometimes, betrayal burns down the house you built. But if you're willing, you can plant something new in the ashes, and it just might bloom brighter than anything you had before. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Did he do the right thing?